Just because someone is mentally ill doesn't mean that they will kill. Reports have mentioned how the Newtown shooter's illnesses of Asperger's syndrome and sensory integration disorder label him a threat. But are these people really a menace to society?
Because of the mass shooting done by Adam Lanza in Newtown, Connecticut, the topic of mental illness and gun control has made its way to the forefront. It has been reported that Lanza was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, which affects the ability to socialize with others, communicate, and use imagination. Sensory integration disorder is when a child has an aversion to noise, light, and difficulty in their motor skills. But what is mental illness? The U.S. Department of Human Services says mental illness is any diagnosable behavior or emotion disorder that interferes or limits a person's ability to work, learn, and participate in the community. Since Lanza was a person with mental illness, it perpetrates the notion that mentally ill people are violent and look like they are in a crazed state. But in fact, it has been said by many mental health workers that the mentally ill are not more dangerous than the next person. Dr. Thomas Insel, director of the National Institute of Mental Health, says the mentally ill are 11 times more likely to be victims of violence than perpetrators of it. The president has stated the same also.
Even as we acknowledge that someone with a mental illness is far more likely to be a victim of violent crime than the perpetrator.
The reality is that a mentally person can be anyone, like Demi Lovato, who has bipolar, and Michael Phelps, who has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Mental illnesses has many faces and severities. I talked to Dr. Diane Klein, who didn't want to be seen on camera, to get a professional perspective on the mentally ill and gun law changes and proposals that are being discussed in this country.
I'm Dr. Diane Klein, and I am a clinical psychologist, and I have a general practice here in Bloomfield. I think it's important to say right at the outset that because somebody suffers from these problems, as many people do, does not mean by any means that people will become the destructive murderers that Adam Lanza epitomizes. So generalizing from a single instance to a population is a very dangerous thing to do.
On January 15th, the New York SAFE Act, also known as the New York Secure Ammunition and Firearms Enforcement Act of 2013, was signed into law. But what do students like you and I feel about the mentally ill?
What if I told you there was someone on campus who had Asperger's syndrome?
I think I would feel kind of curious to see who the person is, just to be aware.
Do you feel like?
I think that they're just like us, they just have a disability. But I feel like they're still human beings and they should be taken seriously just as well as we should.
Let me introduce you to Jason Kelly, a student at Bluefield College. He earns high grades and is on the dean's list. Just like Adam Lanza, he has Asperger's syndrome.
Do you feel judged when people find out that you have Asperger's syndrome?
I don't know. I never got it before. I don't get it now, so no.
You know that the Newtown shooter had the same mental illness. How do you feel about that?
I didn't really think much of it until they brought it up, as a point, oh, they said the shooter has Asperger's. I'm like, so what? It's not like it's a thing that says that, oh, if you have this, you're going to become a crazy shooter guy. It doesn't mean anything. So.
What do you want people to know about Asperger's syndrome and mental illness in general?
I just want people to learn more about it before just hearing some guy who had crazy mental issues that just happened to have this illness. I don't want them to say that and be like, oh, so that means everything is like that. It's not true. It's like freaking ADD. People go over crazy. I have ADD as well. It doesn't mean I'm gonna lose my mind or anything. I don't have to take pills and all that crap. That's just how it is. But I'm not gonna go. I don't feel like shooting people up out right now. I feel like just going to school and doing work.
Adam Lanza is one man who happened to have mental illness that committed a heinous crime. However, that does not mean that people with a mental disorder are bound to commit a crime. Jessica Desiree, Bloomfield College.